What's up, everybody? This is your boy Tech G back with another video to help you successfully pass the CompTIA Network Plus N10-008 certification. So let's get into it. In this video, you're going to learn about IP address translation. All right, so let's talk about address translation. So as described in previous videos, some IP addresses are routable through the public internet, and other IP addresses are considered private and are intended for use within an organization. Network address translation, or NAT, this allows private IP addresses to be translated into internet routable IP addresses, also known as public IP addresses. And this video examines the operation of basic NAT and a variant called port address translation, or PAT. And address translation, this can also be done for specific ports associated with an IP address. And when this is done, it is often referred to as port forwarding. Let's talk about NAT, or network address translation. So this is a method of remapping an IP address space into another by modifying network address information in the IP header of packets while they are in transit across a traffic routing device. So in layman's terms, NAT is the process where a network device assigns a public address to a computer or a group of computers inside a private network. The main use of NAT is to limit or hide an entire IP address space on a local area network for both economic and security purposes. This functionality is typically built into a router, and when network address translation is implemented, before an IP address on a LAN can communicate with the internet, the IP address has to be converted to the public IP address of the router. This allows for the router to appear as if it is the only device making a connection to remote computers on the internet, which provides safety for the computers on the local area network. It also allows a single IP address to do the work for many other IP addresses in the LAN. And network address translation, this is performed automatically on SOHO routers when connected to an IP version 4 network. Network address translation is not necessary on an IP version 6 network because IP version 6 is much more secure and has no shortage of IP addresses. As a memory aid, when you see the word inside, it also refers to an inside device or a source device, and outside always refers to an outside device or the destination. Also, think of the word local. It's a made-up address or a private IP address that is not routable on the internet. And then finally, the word global. This refers to a global IP address that is routable on the internet. Also, NAT does not always have to be between private and public addresses. So for example, NAT could be implemented between two private address ranges or two public address ranges. Whether an inside local address is randomly assigned an inside global address from a pool of available addresses, or is assigned an address from a static configuration, this determines the type of network address translation that will be in use. And these two approaches to NAT are called DNAT and SNAT. So the first one is DNAT, and this stands for Destination Network Address Translation. And this is a technique for transparently changing the destination IP address of a routed packet and performing the inverse function for any replies. Any router situated between two endpoints can perform this translation of the packet. DNAT is commonly used to publish a service that is located in a private network on a publicly accessible IP address. And also DNAT, this is known as port forwarding. And next we have SNAT, or a static network address translation. And this is primarily used in enterprise networks where many internal servers have unregistered IP addresses and are accessed by a global audience using static public IP addresses. It provides a means to ensure network transparency, security, and privacy by hiding the details of internal network usage, architecture, and patterns from external or public users. And a static NAT, this works by creating a one-to-one relationship between the public and private IP addresses. This means that the private IP address can be mapped to only one public IP address at a time. The end user, on the other hand, has a transparent view of the remote device or network and accesses it using the mapped public IP address. And finally, we're going to talk about PAT, or port address translation. So a challenge with basic NAT is that there is a one-to-one mapping of inside local addresses to inside global addresses, meaning that a company would need as many publicly routable IP addresses as it had internal devices devices needing IP addresses. This does not scale well because often a service provider provides a customer with only a single IP address or a small block of IP addresses. Fortunately, many routers, they support port address translation, which allows multiple inside local addresses to share a single inside global address or a single publicly routable IP address. For this reason, port address translation is referred to as a many-to-one. Its basic function is to share a single IP public address between multiple clients who need to use the internet publicly. It is an extension of network address translation, and an example of PAT is a home network that is connected to the internet. Within this setup, the system's routers is assigned a discrete IP address. Multiple users can access the internet over the router and are each assigned a port number as they do so. All right, so this was my video where we talked about IP address translation.